Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this continuation special series video. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah, and I am just so grateful for your interactions. I love interacting with you guys on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the comment section in YouTube as well. Thank you so much. You guys ask great questions. You asked me questions about my approach, my techniques, my understandings of different elements of astrology, and I just love this practice. I'm so grateful to share my perspective and to be some small part of your sacred journey. Thank you. So this video is on, basically, one simple way to put it is chart synthesis. And it really comes down to, a lot of times I'm asked things like, for example, I created a special series on the North Node through the different houses and signs. And so somebody asked, because, for example, I created one video that said North Node in Scorpio or the 8th house, right? So for simplicity's sake, I know they're a different thing. However, for simplicity's sake, I did put them together. And somebody asked, what if I have the North Node in Scorpio, but it's in the 2nd house? And I've been asked questions like that as well in a lot of different things. What if I have my sun in this sign, but my moon in this sign? What does that mean for me? What if I have my rising sign is this, but my Venus sign is this, and they're an aspect? What does that mean? And essentially what all these questions come down to is chart synthesis. That's what it comes down to. Chart synthesis. And that is ultimately what an astrologer does. And so you can watch a lot of videos and read a lot of books, and I'll tell you, every astrologer, like when they start really getting into it, once you move from that place of, first you're reading horoscopes, when you first are a fan of astrology, if you will. So you're reading a lot of horoscopes and you love it and you're resonating with different astrologers. And then some astrologers you find, they start talking about things like Venus moves into your 2nd house, and therefore, and you go, oh, okay, you start learning, like, okay, Venus is in the 2nd house. And I know that a lot of people out there, for example, this is another way that you make my work better, and I thank you for it, but I didn't used to mention these types of things. I didn't used to be very specific, but then fans were saying to me, you guys were saying in your comments, in your interactions, that you want to know why I'm saying, if I'm saying money's going to be great, why am I saying that? Well, I'm saying that because Venus moved into the 2nd house, so you want me to break it down to you, so I have been. So what happens at some point is, first you're watching astrologers who are just telling you what's going to be from their opinion, from their perspective, and how they view the sky and the worldview they bring. And then you start being exposed to astrologers who start breaking it down for you a little bit and saying, okay, it's going to be like this because Venus is here. And then you start getting more into it. And there comes a point when you want to start looking at your chart and you want to start looking at what all these different things mean. And you want to start learning astrology. And this is when you become this transition from being an astrology fan to becoming a student. But it's actually like a point of transition. You usually don't realize you're a student until you're actually going out there and buying different books and doing all the things that students of astrology like to do, like poring over information and getting your own birth chart as well. And as part of this, I have my own book, Astrology Realized, which explains my approach a lot. And a lot of these videos that I do right now for you actually are based on a lot of things that you actually read in my book about my approach and my understanding of the sky. And so when you're doing this, when you're exposing yourself to different information, you will come across what we call in astrology circles, we call cookbook information, right? Cookbook astrology. So basically what that is, and this is the same thing as if you got a computer-generated printout of your chart. So when you get a computer-generated printout of your chart, it will say to you, say Venus in Aries, and then it'll explain what that means. And then it'll say Venus in the 3rd house, and then it'll explain what that means. But it takes an astrologer, it takes chart synthesis to actually put that together and say what that is going to speak to you, what that means to you. And to take it a step further, this is actually what chart synthesis is one thing. But then what I believe is ultimately to be an astrologer is to move towards what's called a realized reading. And this was actually something that was hugely imparted onto me by one of my former professors, Jeffrey Cornelius. And I've interviewed him for my show. He's an amazing astrologer. Once you move into the realm of immediate to advanced astrology, that's when you know Jeffrey Cornelius, because he's written a book called The Moment of Astrology. And it's very philosophical, and it's looking at what are we actually doing in the practice of astrology. But anyways, Jeffrey coined an understanding, or conceptualized an understanding of astrology, where he talked about the difference between a speculative reading and a realized reading. And so a speculative reading is when you look at your chart and you take those cookbooks and you say, okay, my Venus is in Aries and that means this. And you look it up and you go, okay, that's what it means. And you read the little blurb on it. And you go, okay, my Venus is in the 3rd house. So you look it up and you go, there's a little blurb on that. And that's interesting. And that's you starting to put it together. And that's speculative astrology, right? That is when you say, okay, Venus in this sign means this. Venus in this house means this. Venus aspecting Pluto means this, right? So Venus in aspect to Pluto could mean that you have very intense bonds, that you find it hard to let go in relationships, that relationships transform you deeply. And that's a speculative reading where you're literally going down a list of all the different things that that particular placement can mean. But a realized reading, right, which is why my book is called Astrology Realized, is to borrow Jeffrey Cornelius's phrase about a realized reading. A realized reading can look at that, and this is what astrologers essentially do, is we synthesize the information. We're not just breaking it down for you like this means this and this means that, but we're putting it together, we're making sense of it, and we're asking the symbol to speak through us and deliver an omen that's going to be relevant to you. And so somebody else who is thinking about a realized reading, going into the place of chart synthesis, we'll look at those same things, and instead of saying Venus in Aries means this, Venus in this house means this, and Venus aspecting Pluto means this, we'll look at all of that together and say, okay, wow, you've had some pretty intense relationships that started online. And at first you thought you could handle it, but then they got really out of hand after a while. And perhaps 6 months ago, you had a really intense experience that scared you, and you haven't been in a relationship since. Now, how does an astrologer able to do that? How does an astrologer actually do that? That's called chart synthesis. And first, actually, that's called a realized reading. But to get to a realized reading, you have to get to chart synthesis. So first, you've got to put it together. You've got to make sense of the information. You go from a speculative cookbook understanding of, here is my Venus, and here it is, here, and this and that, and putting it together like a puzzle. And you go towards actually knowing that the puzzle is together and saying, okay, I get, here's all the pieces, and this is what all the pieces are going to look like, and this is how they look together. To then actually finding the deeper meaning to that image that is revealed from the puzzle. By the time we get to a realized reading, it isn't just that the puzzle has been put together, but now you're looking at the image and you're saying, okay, this is what it means symbolically. This is the deeper meaning of the image that is revealed. And so chart synthesis is an important part of the process in being an astrologer or learning about astrology. Chart synthesis really does get you to the point where you start trusting yourself more and more so that you can start stepping into the realm of a realized reading. You need chart synthesis to first go from speculative, and then you start synthesizing and you start glimpsing what a realized reading looks like. And then you glimpse it more and more. You take that jump. It's that middle space between speculative and realized reading. And I see this question come up so much, and that's really what it comes down to, is chart synthesis. It comes down to practice. Practice, practice, practice. And really it comes down to personal relationships with the energies within yourself that are symbolized in the sky. And so I'm very big on, and in my book, I repeat again and again, I'm very big on creating personal relationships with these different parts of you. So Mercury is your mind. It's your perception. Learn about your mind. Learn about your perception. Learn about the unique way that you process information in the world and as you interact with the world. Create an understanding, emphasize that energy, focus on that energy. Learn about the different ways that energy has been understood in history. What culture and how it expressed what that energy means. What culture is calling you? What different understandings, what time periods are calling you that speak to that particular energy? These are the types of things that you want to start doing to deepen your practice and to get you to a point where you are first synthesizing the chart, and then your synthesis gets deeper, and then you moved into the space and you start experiencing that space of a realized reading. It is there that you really start to touch on something that is true for yourself and for the people whom your practice will serve as well. Well, thank you so much for your questions, your interactions. I appreciate them so much. Please do keep those questions coming. I have a list. I'm working through them. I promise you, and I will get through all of them. And I just so appreciate, I'm so grateful for this moment with you. Until we connect again, take care.